I think we should start. My name is Agnieszka Sznyk. I'm representing Institute of Innovation and Responsible Development from Poland. We are organizer and host of today's event, today's webinar. And today we would like to talk about the plastic. Plastic, which we know is very controversial. It also causes a lot of emotions, different views, different approaches to the topic. That's why we, first of all, would like to take a voice in the discussion. We prepared a report actually about the topic where we would like to show a little bit balanced view and balanced narration about the plastic. Of course, I understand it's not easy topic. As I said, there is no black and whites, there is a lot of shadows, there is no the easy way to solve the problem, to tackle the problem. We all know there is a lot of plastic and it's far too much plastic around us. But how we can a little bit solve this problem, we would like to discuss today as well. That's why we invite a lot of great speakers, which they share with you their opinion, their approach. We have with us Dutch representatives, which is, I think, at the moment leader in circular economy. So I would like to welcome, first of all, Sanne Kaasjager, Head Economic Department, Embassy of the Netherlands to Poland. I would like to invite as well Freek van Eijk, Managing Director of Holland Circular Hotspot. I would like to invite Professor Joanna Kulczycka from Eijk University of Science and Technology and Mrs. Belén Gracia from campus Iberus. I would like to invite Mr. Kazimierz Borkowski from PlasticsEurope because we also want to hear that voice. Again, I would like to invite Olga Czerwińska from great company 30 Pleasure, a great startup which show you with you their case studies, and also Philip Ehrhorn from the Great Bubble Barrier and Marius Smith from Plastic Whale. The two last, it's very interesting, super cool, I think, initiatives which really can show you how can deal with the plastic problem. So now I will pass the floor to Hubert Bukowski, our research manager from Innowo, who will show you a little bit of our report, the findings from our reports, and tell about our Innowo approach to the topic.
Thank you, Agnieszka. Give me a moment. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay. Now, as Agnieszka said, this is a really hard topic. We had a lot of problems actually writing this report, because we can see that on both sides there are a lot of radicalization, I would say. And the main voice that we actually hear nowadays is that plastic is all bad and we should get rid of it actually in 100%. But we wanted to check if this is really true, if the quality of life, of our current life, won't be optimized, and if it is going to be beneficial for the environment actually, as the ones on the one side of the argument claim. So first of all, we noticed that the use of plastic is so commonplace that we tend to not see how it affects our life. Since the middle of 20th century, it has increased hygiene in the world. It has increased access to fresh water. It enabled us to transport ourselves by building aeroplanes, cars. It enabled us to decrease the numbers of death by, for example, through airbags or helmets under construction. It also made some of the greatest achievements of humankind possible, that is space travel. So nowadays we actually forgot about all these things, and I think that we tend to focus on only on the bad things. But firstly, I wanted to say what made plastic so special. What made it this wonder material that it was called in the middle of 20th century. First of all, plastic items are lightweight, flexible, and resistant. So, yeah, these characteristics made the usage of plastics possible in all of the kinds of products and packages. It enabled us to decrease utilizing different resources. For example, it increases the shelf life of food. It decreases. Mm-hmm. Okay, sorry about that. Let me start again. Mm-hmm. How about now? Is it working? No. No. Let me take a minute actually, because we have problems here. Yeah. I'll try again.
Dat is toch altijd zo ongemakkelijk?
Want werk jij veel met Zoom?
Nee, ik werk veel meer met Teams. Zoom is eigenlijk niet veilig.
Nee, heel veel bedrijven mogen het niet, hè? Of niet downloaden.
Okay. Do you see it now? Okay, let me check if it's. Is it working? Okay, so just like I said, this is a hard topic, but you know, we forgot about all the benefits of using plastics. And for example, the utilization of resources that is now better than anywhere in the history of humankind. Also, we forgot about the durability of plastic products, because simply they're used as single-use products, and actually they're really durable. For example, here are 3 examples. PVC pipe are over 2 times more durable than galvanized steel pipe. The polyester tissue is more durable than the normal cotton one, and the composite frame of a plane is more durable than a traditional frame. What made this success of plastics in the world possible? One of the things that is really crucial in this aspect is the price of plastics. Also, the easy formation, the easy finish, and faster production process. So this all made possible the growth of plastics usage in the world possible to a great extent, as you can see on this diagram. But then again, it's not all, you know, rosy and pink, and because we are using plastics in a really bad way. We apply a linear model to plastics usage. Actually, only 7% of all plastics ever produced was recycled, and most of it, over 60%, was discarded. We can see it everywhere, actually. And through recent years, the problem with plastics in maritime environment has become so commonplace that we have seen it, seen the photos, the problem, and well, we should actually tackle it. What seems to cause the problem? First of all, is the usage of plastics that is not really responsible. We use plastic in some products and packages that are hard to collect and separate. They're really this process is really unprofitable, so nobody cares about using the plastic once again. Also, there are lots different kinds of plastics that are hard to separate, and it's kind of difficult to make plastics circular, and instead the model that applies to plastic is primarily linear. And the second aspect, the durability, that seems to be the great advantage when it comes to usage of the products and packaging, becomes a drawback when the plastic becomes waste. We actually don't know how much time does it take for the plastic to decompose. Here is a diagram of probable years it takes to decompose different plastic products. But then again, nobody seen plastic diaper to decompose, so it could have taken even 1,000 years. And in the 70s, in the 80s, we only thought about plastic spilling into our environment as an aesthetic problem, but now we know that it also causes health and environmental issues. The problem affects over 700 species of marine fauna alone, including endangered species. Some polymers and actually additives to the plastics are detrimental for human and animal health. So how to tackle the problem? Well, the main idea, and the idea that is also followed by by European Union, is the circular economy model. The model focuses on retention of economic value, and how to do it? By closing the loops in the product's life cycle. So first of all, we want to use products for as long as possible. We want to share them, we want to repair them, reuse them, remanufacture, and recycle for it to stay in the economic cycle for as long as possible, not like in the linear cycle where when we take the resources, when we produce, use, and then generate waste. This is a really wasteful process that needs to change. What is the first step to implementing circular economy? We think that waste hierarchy is a really easy way to approach it. And first of all, we need to prevent all those usages of plastics that are detrimental for the environment. I want to offer you a quick rule of thumb on how to approach this aspect. When a plastic product is cheap and small, then you have to think thoroughly about really buying the product, because it may be that this is a really linear product and it's not beneficial for you at all, and maybe it has some disadvantages for the environment also. Circular economy offers a few tools that can help us. Some of them are circular business models that the companies can use. And here we have a product as a service example. For example, using tires to be paid by kilometer, not to buy the tire itself. This incentivizes the company that produces the tires to for the product to be as durable as possible. Then we have sharing economy. For example, in Copenhagen, if any one of you is from Denmark, you can back me up here. If the neighbors collectively buy some products, for example, drills, they use really scarcely. So it makes sense to buy the product collectively. And also we have an example of industrial symbiosis in Kawasaki in Japan that uses PET bottles as a construction material, and then it uses it to retain energy from it. So you can read more about it in our report. Other tools that are really beneficial for environment and for the society in terms of plastic consumption are innovative plastic materials. We can see that companies are working on better functionalities or reducing energy usage during the production. Also, biocompostable plastics are gaining more interest, and also they decrease the fuel dependency. So we have this 4 directions that the plastic industry is going in. And we think that is really beneficial for the environment, as well as the new collection system developments. This may concern deposit return schemes. And one thing that I would like to say also, just during the enumeration of the tools that circular economy proposes of handling plastics, is that we need to approach these new innovations carefully, because as we see from the history, in the middle of the 20th century, when plastic really entered mainstream, we have seen this carefree approach to using plastics, single use mainly. And here you have an example. This is an article from the Life magazine from 1955, when plastic was held as a miracle material that is beneficial for quality of life, but nobody thought about environmental aspects. So some of the new technologies, for example, biodegradable plastics, may cause some carefree behavior, and we have to approach this aspect really carefully. But something that I want to say here today is that consumer role should not be exaggerated, because it is often said that the plastic itself is not bad, it's how we handle it. This is true, but it's not only the responsibility of the consumer, but also the producer, because if the product is not does not enable collection or recycling or any other form of closing the loop, maybe we should think about discarding it. And surely consumers can do better than they are doing now. They are using plastic products and packaging carefree, and this actually has to change. Here and also in the report, you may find some hints on how to approach, how to handle plastic products and packaging better to make it more circular. And summing up my presentation, I would like to say that we need to change the way how we manage plastics, and this concerns consumers and producers as well. We need to limit the use of products and packaging that are single use and pose threat to the environment or are unnecessary actually for our quality of life. We need to facilitate the eco-design of products, the reuse and recycling, and limit landfilling and incineration. This is all we have to do to continue actually using plastics in a beneficial way for the society and environment. And what came as a surprise for us when writing this report is that plastics actually can be perceived as something that a material that may become nature's ally instead of a foe, how it's thought about nowadays. The lightness of plastics can decrease emissions in transportation. They enable environmentally friendly technologies such as solar panels. They limit the generation of other waste streams, just as food waste, for example. So there are really many aspects of plastics that could be used for environment and society benefits, and plastics should not be approached as only a bad thing, but we should source it as something beneficial for us all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Hubert. As we see it, it's a very complex problem, and we have to really find some systemic approach with cooperation of different stakeholders, broad range of stakeholders. That's why we want to collect as many different people, institutions to really help us to tackle the problem. First of all, also from some logistic, there is Q&A and chat, so it's open for anyone. So if you want to give your comments, question, whatever you think you would like to share with us, just do it. We want to also make it vivid as much as possible. And now we just shift to some Dutch, Netherlands perspective. So I would like to ask Sanne Kaasjager, Head Economic Department, Chancellor, Embassy of Netherlands to Poland. So Sanne, please, floor, it's yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Agnieszka. Can you hear me?
You get a little bit louder voice. We can hear.
Right. I will try to speak up. Well, thanks for the opportunity, first of all, and it's great to talk about the subject. It's very close to our heart for the Netherlands and the government, but also the embassy and me personally. So I appreciate the opportunity, and also thanks to Hubert, because I think he shows us that's a very inspiring topic. And we've advanced, I think, a long way since the cover of that Life magazine that talks about the throwaway living. So that's at least encouraging. What I would like to do is to share some, well, I would just start up for a moment. So you can see this, right? Well, just 1 second. Right. So this is our team. I just wanted to say that and make clear that what I said in the beginning, promoting sustainable enterprise is really at the heart of the activities of our embassy. It's our policy agenda, so we are reporting to The Hague about EU topics, but also like the Green Deal, like climate and energy policy. So we are very active on that, but also on trade promotion, obviously. And a couple of areas we really do more proactively, because we respond to a lot of trade requests that we get from companies, from Dutch companies, of course. That's the core of our work. But we do also do, let's say, more proactive work, and that is those are the priority areas that I mentioned here. So that's greening economy in cities, that's energy transition, innovative mobility, water management, what else for the Dutch, and agriculture, also a leading nation in that respect. So this is where we have something to offer, we think, and there's also a profit to be made. And we hope also to inspire other countries and companies and knowledge institutions also to follow the path and to develop further. And advancing circular economy is really the key to all the 5 sectors. I think it's fair to say that it's really a cross-cutting theme, and it's underpinning everything we do. And Agnieszka, I know that we had the conversation and you said, what? Sustainable enterprise? It's a circular economy that all bundles it together. That should be your main priority, and actually you're quite right. So we are definitely also moving in that direction. Because if you look at our activities, I was going to show you a short movie of my internship, because I did an internship as trade counselor for this embassy in Biddinghuizen in Van Werven plastic recycling. I spent a week there, and I was in the lab. I was in the at the sorting belt with a lot of Polish colleagues who were working there, sorting plastics and recycled materials, or to be recycled. I talked to the CEO, Ton van der Giesen, about the more strategic concepts. It was a really instructive and very, very inspiring experience, I have to say. And I bring a lot of that to my work in the embassy. And the embassy, well, we are the main sponsor, one of the main sponsors of the Circular Week. We try also to mediate, to facilitate, try to get inspiring speakers here, but also financially and in other ways try to contribute to this, to advancing circular economy in Poland. If you want to see more, I have a little vlog made, very amateuristic, very cheesy, but hey, it's an effort to show you the experience I had in Biddinghuizen. So you can check my LinkedIn, and obviously also our website, and we have also a department LinkedIn page. So please follow us. Now the Dutch approach to plastics. Let me go through that very quickly. to decrease plastic waste. And I completely agree with Hubert that we shouldn't demonize plastics. You know, it's really at the heart of a lot of things we do in our economy and to products. It brought us wealth as well, and it still will. So, but the thing is that the main challenge is to do it in a more sustainable way and use plastics in a responsible way and to decrease the waste. And to do that, you should, I think, or the Dutch government thinks, to have a comprehensive and ambitious policy first. So a level playing field, aiming for a strong European regulatory framework. And second, embed your plastic policy in a wider circular economy strategy. So for example, in the Netherlands, we have the circular economy, which is aiming at fully circular economy in 2050 and reduction of primary raw materials by 2030. So this is important to embed your plastics policy in that. And to have an economy-wide commitment. So systemic change, Agnieszka, you mentioned it in your introduction, very necessary. All sectors have, in the Netherlands, have transition agendas, including plastics. So we have biomass and food, we have construction, we have manufacturing, consumer goods, and we have plastics transition agenda. So the network approach, I already mentioned, maybe it's encouraging collaboration really at all levels, central government, local authorities, knowledge institutions, industry, civil society, etc. And closing the loop is maybe the main feature or the main challenge also, because plastics is a great raw material. So you shouldn't just waste it, you should reuse it. That's something I really learned at Van Werven. Van Werven makes a profit. Well, not anymore, I will tell you later, but makes a profit from plastics. It's a great raw material. So close that loop and make it an attractive business model, an environmental win, an economic win. So this is something that is possible, it's really doable. Government as a partner in the process, it's not only a regulatory player, it's not only a policy framework that it provides, it's really connecting, bringing partners together in that value chain. It's an economy-wide approach. The change in behavior, it's very important, but I'm not going to touch upon that too much. I know Freek van Eijk will say something about it later, so it's really important, but I will skip that. And this one, and don't worry, I'm not going to go through all that 4 points. I'm just going to share this presentation with you. If you want to check the information on the plastics pacts in the Netherlands and also on the European plastics pact that I will touch on later, you can just read about it in that link that I provide here. Suffice to say now is that, you know, Plastics Pact was launched in February 2019, 75 signatories so far, including producers, retailers, leading ministry, ENW, of course, the infrastructure and water. So since then, we have now 97 new partners on board. This is the status of February 2020. So this is and then the European Plastics Pact. So the Dutch Plastics Pact is, the Netherlands Plastics Pact was one. Second step, Stientje van Veldhoven really committed herself with the French and the Danish minister colleagues and tried to advance this European Plastics Pact. And the embassy also in Warsaw is now promoting, lobbying, campaigning to businesses, but also governments, local and central, to come on board. So really to join this effort, founded by these 3 countries. And actually it's the first regional initiative to bring governments and business together with this EEA, the European Economic Area, to work towards a more common vision for a circular economy for plastics. And there in this circular economy for plastics, plastics never become waste is the ambition. So it was launched very recently on the 6th of March 2020. It's attracted quite some media attention. And we have now some 114 signatories, maybe a bit more. And we have 19 countries in Europe that joined. And your question is, of course, is Poland one of those? I'm afraid not. So we need to do some work there. And we need all your help. I hope that all those who are listening and watching this, that you will campaign with us to try to get Polish partners from business and public sector to join this effort. You can go through me or through Agnieszka, no problem. In May 2020, there was a British secretariat who was elected to the Secretariat of the European Plastics Pact. Now, what is really interesting, and my last slide, is this one, because this up to now, everyone trying to be trying to convince you, and it's going to happen. We have a can-do mentality, definitely. But there's one really tough hiccup now in the plastics recycling industry. I talked yesterday morning to Ton van der Giessen, the CEO of that largest European recycler in Biddinghuizen. And he said, Sanne, it's really the oil price is so low, it's destroying our recycling business. So the low oil price is really a big problem. Virgin plastic, so freshly made plastics, is extremely cheap to buy. So the buyers of plastics prefer virgin, basically, and the demand for recycled plastics has gone down immensely. And due to the Corona crisis, the demand in general has gone down. So also the demand for recycled plastics. So this situation, suppliers of recycled material, like municipalities that will give their plastics to recycling institutions or factories, they are faced now with increasing costs for processing their plastic waste. So basically, the incinerator is now more attractive for municipalities than the recycling factory that they should go to. So that's those are two big challenges there. Thirdly, we need more binding targets. And of course, in the Netherlands on its own is not going to do that. We need to work on a European or a worldwide level. Politics and economy are not really ready yet to agree on binding targets. And we are aiming for, or Stientje van Veldhoven is aiming for, so the Netherlands, but maybe also other countries, I believe, to oblige producers to use at least 20% recycled contents in their plastic production. So this should be a binding target. This is something that we want to commit to. And we need to do that on an EU level, as I said, joint commitment, and we need to lobby for that. With government, but also businesses. Ton van der Giessen, the CEO, he's now vice chair of an industrial platform, and they really committed, also the big companies like Unilever, Coca-Cola, Philips. There are a couple of big players that really committed, and they keep the recycling industry at this moment alive because they keep asking for recycled plastics, and they have committed themselves, their companies, to using that. So it's top down, but also bottom up. It's really important. So the one more important or also important one is we need to move beyond packaging. We're now talking about plastics packaging only. Plastics Pact, European, Dutch, it's all about packaging. And that's 40% of the story. We need 60% of the other 60% as well. So that is definitely a major challenge also to include that in our story, in our activities. Now, so closing, support and lobby on an optimistic note, obviously. I still believe that the support and the lobby for targets and commitments is really growing stronger. The public support, but also political and within and from the industry is becoming stronger and stronger, and it widens. So basically, the bottom line is we need to maybe stop talking about all this and really start doing things. This is the main message that also I talked to the one policy advisor, or let's say the director at the Ministry of Stientje van Veldhoven, who also said, you know, Sanne, it's really important that now we have all or at least a large part of the regulation in order. We need to start doing things. So this is my final call to all of you to start doing things also on a personal level to try to use plastics more responsibly. Approach the embassy if you want for any ideas or cooperation that you want to do on this, because we're very much open to cooperating with you. And again, Agnieszka, Innowo, Hotspot, Poland, thank you for this opportunity. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Sanne. So if you could stop here sharing, yeah, thank you. Could you stop?
Oh.
Yeah, thank you very much. So as you said about the network, we as Innowo establish and coordinate the Polish Circular Hotspot, the platform which gather all stakeholders we would like and want with us transform economy into more circular way. And we have our counterpart organization from Holland, like Holland Circular Hotspot. So Freek van Eijk is with us today. And he will show you and tell you about different interesting examples, case studies from this field. So Freek, please, could you share with us your presentation now?
I jestem dziś z wami i możemy rozmawiać o gospodarce cirkularnej i o plastiku. Wasi mój niezdolny polski i będę kontynuował po angielsku.
Brawo.
Agnieszka.
Bravo.
It's a great pleasure to be here with you on this webinar. My name is Freek van Eijk. I'm director of Holland Circular Hotspot, and we try to make circular economy happen at the international level and create mutual business opportunities and share knowledge. Because it's not about copyright in a circular economy, it's about the right to copy. And we share best practices from business and from knowledge institutes, and also the lessons learned the hard way from our governments. And by connecting circular economy to the international level, linking it with the climate goals and with SDGs, we hope to make the difference together, and that's much needed. Well, Sanne told you there were some recent events in the Netherlands and in Europe about a plastic pact. Now, what I want to do with you is actually go a little bit back and why did this start? The why, the how, and the what, and then you can see the relevance of these kinds of initiatives and why probably it would make sense that Poland would start something like that as well. So let's go back a little bit in time, and I'm, let's say, basically going on where Hubert already started. It's plastic is really a truly fantastic material, but that story is so difficult to keep up if you see what happens with plastic in the whole value chain. So we have an imperfect value chain. In the end, 32% leaks out into the environment, 40% is landfilled, a large part is incinerated, and only 40% ends up in a loop, and not 2% only in a real loop. So yes, it's really a great material, but we cannot keep on the present way of using plastics in the value chain. Business as usual is not an option. Now, the how. Let me first share the future, the way the Dutch government sees our future. They say, in the future, there should be no plastic in the environment. There should be no plastic landfilled or incinerated. All plastic should have value and should be recycled. And that will ask, of course, for lots of behavior, and change won't be easy. But if you look at this round graph on your right side on the screen, you actually see that there are plenty of business opportunities already today. If you just follow from, let's say, 9 o'clock, the circle, at the start, you can think about renewable resources. When making a product, you can think about designing for the whole value chain, not just for production. And if you have a product in use, make sure that it's reusable. Already today, we can recycle lots of plastics mechanically and new in the same loop or in new loops. And a very relatively new development is chemical recycling, which bridges the gap between everything which cannot be recycled and incineration. It fills a good gap. And it makes sense. You know that already today, for 20% of packaging, there is a reuse alternative, which is economically attractive today. With a decent extended producer responsibility scheme in practice, already today 50% of plastic packaging, for instance, can be recycled. And if you look at potential, because circular economy, it's about economy, it's an opportunity. Just replacing 20% of single-use packaging today with reusable alternatives would be business opportunities of more than $10 billion US. So we really talking about how we have quite some options, but it's not only about business opportunities, it's also about the actors in the field. And here, basically the message is you need everybody on board. Now, if you look at plastics today, it's not economically viable, for instance, to let's say, collect and recycle plastic packaging. It's in general, waste is like water. It goes to the lowest point. You need some regulation and you need enforcement to make it work. And for plastics, we're talking about extended producer responsibility. And that's typically the role of a government to set it up and to have a, let's say, to set the boundary conditions and the targets. We started, it took us maybe even 5 years to set it up, but now we have a recycling percentage for packaging of 73%, which is quite good. But national governments cannot do it alone, because in the end, it's at the municipalities that the waste falls free, that you have to organize collection, you have to communicate to the inhabitants. And then again, then it's up to the waste collectors and the waste sorters and recyclers. And they should not strive to reach a recycling target. No, they should make qualities that industry actually needs. Only then you get uptake by industry. And then, of course, these industries, these leading brands should be ready to use this recyclate, and they should have new designs and take a commitment for only reusable or recyclable packaging. So if a framework for action is set up, businesses can innovate and start to make the difference. And let me just show you with a few practical examples. Now let's start with our government. You see a nice scheme on your left side. It's about transitions. And in a transition, you have to, let's say, build up step by step those activities which you would like to see. And at the same time, you have to break down, let's say, activities which you no longer want, and give, let's say, also those companies a time to adapt, to make the change. Now, things which might help is a ban on landfill, no free plastic bags, no straws, start to tax the taxation on CO2 emissions or even incineration, ban exports. Very important is to start with extended producer responsibility and maybe including eco-modulation. What I mean with that is that, let's say, if you have a very good design, you pay less. If you have a very bad design, you pay more. And if you want more uptake of plastics, introduce circular procurement, a pull factor for new circular, let's say, plastics in the market. And we should really have a collaborative approach, and I will highlight that with some examples. Now, let's look at the legacy plastics. So because, let's say, this is the result of our actions in the past, we risk that there is more plastic in the ocean than fish in 2050. Now there is Bojan Slat, a young engineer, 18 years old, who actually said, hey, I want to make a change. And he really managed to set up the ocean cleanup, and actually the improved, let's say, second version is working quite well. And he aims that in 5 years' time, he can actually clean up 50% of the Great Pacific Patch in, let's say, 50% of the materials. Now he's focusing on rivers, and his ambition is, let's say, to prevent that actually plastics end up in the river. And he wants to stop 80% of plastics ending up in the river in 5 years' time. We need dreamers who make their dream come true like that. Now, of course, we don't want, let's say, to work in the oceans. We don't want to work in the rivers. We have to be closer to the source. And one of the first steps then you have to do is collection. And here you see a picture of Modulo, an upcycle center, which is a flexible, adapter, modular environmental station. And that allows for separation at the source in, let's say, in Holland at 18 different kinds of flows. And the better you separate at the source, the better the quality of the product can be. And this one you can pick up, extend, and move after 2 years. But then it's also about us. Let's say we inhabitants play a huge role. How do we separate our waste? And it's much more than telling them that they have to do so. It's much more than creating awareness about the need, how bad plastics can be in the environment. It's also facilitating it, that behavior can follow. It's the infrastructure on the streets. It's adapted collection times, a clear signing. It's about making it cool to recycle, making it sexy to recycle. Now our agency Rijkswaterstaat has, let's say, very practical experience to share in this field based on a multi-year pilot with at least 5 cities. So the behavior is very important if you want to, let's say, to have successful results. Now, let's talk a little bit about technology, but also the complexity. In the circular economy, we always say that it's about 20% technological innovation and 80% social innovation. If you look at technology, like here you see from Bollegraph, which have excellent equipment, That's the result of this technology is determined by the quality of your collection, the step ahead, but it's also determined by, let's say, the collection mix that the government has set in the regulation. So planning and recycling plant is planning regulation. So it's not that easy to just add a new flow, for instance, biodegradable packaging that you can shoot them out. You need also bunker capacity, for instance. And setting up regulation is also about involving technology providers up front, that you know what can be done, what can be extended, what is feasible, what not. And if you do it well, you can get really beautiful results. This is a plastic sorting plant in the town of Rotterdam. It was in its time the most modern one in Europe. And here you can sort PP, PE, PAT for, let's say, in bales of more than 90% purity. Now, that's a fantastic result, but unfortunately, that's not enough for industrial standards. So sorting is great, a necessary step, but you need a step after that. And the bales which come from this plant, they go to a recycler, which is QCP, quality circular polymers. What they do, they make 99.8 or 99.9% pure granulates. And now you're talking at the quality level that industry actually can need and that they can use. And even it's so good that you can use them in something which is extremely sensitive, a kid stroller, where you want the highest safety standards. And that's what's happening here. Their materials are in a baby stroller. So basically, you have seen here that from extended producer responsibility in the Netherlands, you had collection facilities, Suez is sorting, QCP is recycling, and then Green Tom is using the recyclate to make, let's say, sensible products. Now, at light speed, I will mention a few other examples, let's say driven by the producers. This is DSM Niaga. They make actually a recyclable carpet material, which can be fully restored in original matter. You know, Niaga, if you turn it around, it's again. So that's a little bit the direction we would like to go. And it's not only about packaging. Here we see an example in, let's say, the consumer products. Philips has vacuum cleaners, but they also have coffee machines, which have a very high content of recycled material. And here we're talking about other regulations in driver, which is extended producer responsibility for WEEE, for electronics. And to make this happen, let's say in the picture you see here for the vacuum cleaner, they had to work together with Coolrack, part of Renewi, the waste handler who keeps the materials apart, and with Veolia to make the compounds that they can actually need. Again, a value chain collaboration. And is it only something which can happen somewhere in Denmark or in the Netherlands? No, I think Veolia and Danone, they prove that you can make 100% recycled plastic bottle even in countries like Indonesia. So it can be done, and it can be done everywhere. Now let's talk a little bit about chemical recycling, an upcoming topic. Today we can recycle, if you have a good EPR, about 50% of all packages mechanically. The bad news is that we cannot recycle the other 50%. Now here chemical recycling might fill in a gap. In general, it's, let's say, more expensive than mechanical recycling, but it has a better footprint than incineration. It fills a little bit also footprint-wise the gap between the two. Our government supports heavily investments in this area because incineration of plastic is a waste of plastic. Mechanical recycling has limitations. Chemical recycling can seriously reduce CO2 emissions, not as much as mechanical recycling, but it's significant. It reduces a substance of very high concern, and it provides safe materials, for instance, for food-grade plastics. But it's really a lot. It's dissolution technology like the polystyrene loop. It's depolymerization like Ionica, it's pyrolysis like black carbon is doing for tires, it's gasification like Enerchem wants to do in the Rotterdam harbor. So it's a big bag with lots of technology going on, but that would definitely make a gap. And if the industry picks it up, the chemical industry, we're talking about volumes which are way higher than the waste market that today is talking about. So it could be a scale-up potential. One of these examples is Ionica. The trick of their trade is basically the combination of depolymerization plus magnetic fluid separation. Then they make the raw basic material back again for PET recycling. And what they did very smartly, again about collaboration, they worked with Indorama and with Unilever to secure, let's say, bringing it to the market, closing the loop. Of course, very quickly, it's also about new bio-based plastics, renewable materials as input material, which can be used as well. And of course, recycling is nice, but it's much better, let's say, to reuse it. And for instance, Cent in the Netherlands has boxes which can bring new mobile phones door to door, and you take the box back and you can reuse it at least 5 times. That's actually where the innovation really should be. Now, what we learned throughout all these investigations we had, that it's very important that brands start to make the difference. If they want to be no longer part of the problem, but want to be a force for good, then they should start with designing for the whole value chain. Because 80% of the impact takes place in the design phase of the environmental impact in the whole value chain. Now, this Dutch, let's say, initiative, CIRCO, is providing workshops also at international level, let's say, especially for circular economy business models. Now, what I want to basically try to share with you is that closing the loop for plastic is happening today, and that front-running businesses are accepting it. And I think that in the end, after the Corona crisis, the need for a circular economy will only be higher. It happens everywhere today. Plastic is hot everywhere, and you see wonderful initiatives. It's an opportunity. It's about future markets for companies like Unilever as well. But we need to scale up fast, and businesses can't do it alone. So we need everybody on board, municipalities, national government, designers. And that's why back again to where I started, why these plastic specs are so incredibly important. So regulation is difficult, you create opposition, but working in coalitions of the willing, then you can really do a lot. In the plastic specs, we have the government, food and drink industries, supermarkets, retailers, recyclers, NGOs, and together you can make this work. So I would like to say thank you for your attention. Try to get to your Plastic Pact and well, and join our European Plastic Pact. Back to you, Agnieszka. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you can, yeah, okay. Thank you very much. So now we pass to some pan-European education campaign where we will talk about the future of packaging. So with us are Professor Joanna Kulczycka from University of Science and Technology and Belén Gracia from campus Iberus. So now I think I should share a screen, yes, because I have your presentation. This is the one. Yes, is it works?
Good morning. Yes, it works. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Joanna Kulczycka, and I'm together with Belén Gracia. I'm from AGH and from Poland, and Belén is from Spain. So as we can see, the challenge of plastic has no barrier. No, it's the global challenge. Absolutely. So a lot of things has already been said, that it's a complex aspect, that it's very inspiring, and it's need a lot of actors. But one of the key points is, which is really needed, it's education. So it's education dedicated both to students, it's education both to the lifelong learning, and it's also education to all the society. So when we go to the next slide, we could see that this the circular economy education. Agnieszka, if I may ask for the next slide. Okay, so we can see that what has already been said, that we have to look from the life cycle perspective. Life cycle perspective, it's one point. So from the eco-design, it was said that it's 80% of the impact can be created, or diminishing the impact can be created on the eco-design, but also till the final management or reuse the product. So life cycle perspective is one challenge. The second challenge is to take into account all actors in the value chain. So to dedicated education to all actors. Of course, what was said, we have a lot of, we are in a very political momentum, that a lot of actors are involved, as big companies, as a lot of NGOs, but it's mostly focusing, a lot of focusing on plastic pollution. So to minimize plastic pollution both from the side of sustainable production and also from the side of sustainable consumption. But what we need, we also need the transformation based on skills, innovation, and investment. So we need the new education program, because it's, as we discuss here, we can see that it's so complex. So how we should teach engineer, how we should teach manager, how we should teach people from the environmental education program to combine all the knowledge. So what level of collaboration should be? What knowledge, when we're talking about circular economy, we're talking from one side about all the technology, but on the other side, with circular economy, we mostly talk about the business model, so organization, marketing changes, where and to whom we should dedicate this knowledge and how broad this knowledge should be. So, of course, I think that the close collaboration with the higher education is absolutely needed between the plastic industry and also the exchange of knowledge between the industry and the education to have no skills to match all the information. So if I can ask for the next slide. What we could see it's that we have a lot of information connecting with the. I have another one, Agnieszka. One before. No, number 2. One more. Sorry. Okay, so we lost a little bit. Okay, so when we're talking about life cycle management of plastic, that's the key point, that we have to look into account the impact on the every stage of life cycle. So eco-design we already said, but also on the production, consumption, and in that sense we need a good data. And the good data to create material flow analysis, to create the life cycle assessment, and as we could see from a lot of study are now going on, also the study organized by European Commission, by Joe Research Center, but because the aspect is so complex, we have a lot of new bio-based material. We have a lot of traditional material. We have a lot of types of plastic. So to do the such research like life cycle assessment for every study, it's also time consuming. But what we could see, we have this idea of life cycle management addressed to some action on the level of the regulation. So to analyze the results of life cycle management, and this includes the identification on hotspots to minimize the impact on the environment. If we can go to the next one, when we go to the education, what we could see that we have a lot of courses. We have a lot of information about plastic, but when we go deeper to this, to plastic education, it's all focusing how to use plastic or how to protect the environment mostly, or dedicated focusing on plastic ocean or any technical operation, but to have the complex life cycle thinking of circular thinking, there are only a few such solutions. And of course, a lot of courses is dedicated by NGO, fortunately, so they are very active, and they range is very broad. So it's not only like plastic ocean, it's not only focusing even on one continent, but it's a global action. But when we go to the higher education, we could see that it's there are few courses dedicated to global management, or to change the way of thinking in the way of circular economy connected with plastic. So we're hoping we can change this one, or we can identify what would be the best solution for the education. What's the highest challenge for the education? When we go to the project which Belén is a leader, is a coordinator, it's called PackAlliance, and it's the European Knowledge Alliance project. So Belén, the floor is yours, and Agnieszka, the next slide, please. Also,
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Joanna. Do you hear me well? Okay.
Yes.
So thank you, Joanna, for the presentation. Well, my name is Belén Gracia, and I'm from Spain and from Campus Iberus, which is itself a consortium of 4 universities in the Ebro Valley in Spain and northeast of Spain. And well, we are here to talk about the PackAlliance Erasmus Plus project. So we are really focused on education because we are companies and also higher education institutions. So we are focusing the circular economy deal from the point that of who we are. So we are higher education institutions and companies. So we focus in education these key elements that we want to tackle for making a change. We want to identify these new or update needed skills which respond to our labor market needs. And we want also to experiment with new learning and different processes for this for the acquisition of these skills. And we want also that this investment in education is translated into investment for capacity upscaling, innovation and entrepreneurship, and we can say also intrapreneurship. So we want really to create prototypes, to generate ideas, to make startups. And if we see our main goal of this project, we can try to read the sentence backwards. So we can start with what we want. So what we want is a circular economy model. So this is a very ambitious goal. So we are going to focus in sustainable packaging for the transition of plastics value. So in this case, our contribution would be to foster academic industry collaboration. So this is related of what Sanne just told us, that we have to start doing things, even if they are small. Someone has something to do about this. So we are focusing in this specific point. And our goals, well, our goals, we want to create, we want to equip higher education students and professionals with these understood demand skills. So we are interviewing and we are gathering information from industry to be able to do this. And we want also to modernize and align higher education curricula with these industry needs. So we are starting to have feedback from industry concerning these needs. And we can say also that it's not only cognitive skills that are needed or what industry asks for, it's also practical and soft skills. So we have to take this feedback into account. This is part of a duty. And we want to establish collaboration schemes, and we want them to be permanent. So these collaboration schemes are based on hubs, which could be like labs. There are so many different models, but our model, like any others, can lead to knowledge change and reskilling and upskilling. Well, we not only want to work with fresh graduate students, we want also to skill up professionals, okay, and for the generation of circular, sustainable solutions. So if we can go to the next one. Okay, so well, this is more in the same thing. So we want to make this training program, and we want to focus on real needs, and we target credits and professionals, and this is also what I was talking about what industry demands. They are not demanding only cognitive skills, but also some other skills, and we want to work with the students in a different way also, to use some other methodologies and tools, basically based in project-based teaching and learning. We call them challenge-based also. And we want to foster also international mobility. We really believe in mobility for students, and I don't know how it is going to happen with the pandemic and whatever, but I hope international mobility will start again. And yeah, we want this collaboration between industry and higher education to be permanent, to be something that keep in time. And we are aware that we are not alone in this stuff. You are the proof of that. You are here also. We are sharing our inquietudes, our problems, and we want to be and stay connected with all these clusters and projects that is going on today. And why not? We might want to return to society some recommendations, some policy recommendations, not only for policymakers, but only for companies, just how to deal with the plastic and plastic packaging for economies, for circular economy. So we can go to the next one, please. Yeah, so who are we? So we are 8 partners from Finland, Poland, Italy, and Spain. And we have also 15 associated partners, and we have a work plan, of course, which is divided in 3 phases, which I'll explain a little bit more in detail in the next slide. And well, almost 1 million. Okay. How are we going to do this? So we have 3 phases. Right now we are in phase 1, in preparation phase. So we are analyzing skills offer and future trends, thanks also to the Observatory of the Packages, which is located in Ecoembes in Spain. And concerning this, we are now currently in phase 1, so we are organizing workshops with companies so they can help us to identify which skills concerning circular economy are needed or searched for the current employees. And therefore, workshops foreseen. One of them, the one that is done in Finland, is already done, but there are three of them in Poland, Spain, and Italy that are going to take place this June or July. So if you want to collaborate with it, you want to join us to detect these skills, so you're more than welcome. You just have to contact Joanna or myself, and we'll be glad to help you. So that was phase 1, and well, then we have 2 other phases to complete our project. But I think you can visit also to our webpage in PackAlliance, packal.eu, and thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. So now we go to the business and would like to hear how business representative will concern about the plastic topics, the plastics issue. So I'd like to ask Kazimierz Borkowski, Director of PlasticsEurope Poland, to share their views. And I know that the chemical sector are pretty aware, and they really want to also make some activities around it.
Good morning. Thank you, Agnieszka, for inviting us. I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes, we can.
And I am glad because I heard so many topics that I wanted to cover in my presentation, and I was unlucky because I didn't have enough time. So I heard about not wasting plastic, but to reuse it. I heard on supporting ban on landfill, supporting reuse, using LCA, goods, big stress on education. So this is all the values that we support also. So thank you for my colleagues who have mentioned it. I will go directly to my subject, which is eco-design. Eco-design itself is not a new concept. Even in the EU legislation, we have a directive, which is probably 15 years old, that covers the eco-design, but only now with the discussion over the circular economy. So 5 years ago, this topic has received a big emphasis and become very important for the success of circular economy. So this is the plan of my presentation. I will try to show, however, that plastic is essential to reach sustainable development and sustainable development goals. And finally, I will explain a little bit about different approach to eco-design, and we'll finish with some examples. So I'm speaking for Plastic Europe, which is the association of plastic producers. So only a part of a plastic value chain, but the one that everything starts with. So our member companies produce the polymers that are then further used to manufacture the plastic products. I will show only two examples why we need plastics to implement, to develop in a sustainable way. If we take SDG number 2, zero hunger, we know that today over 1/3 of food produce is wasted, and thanks to modern packaging, including plastic packaging, we can reduce this food waste in a big scale. And second, climate change. We know that without solutions that are offered by plastics, it would be very difficult to reduce the CO2 emissions if we only think of lightweight cars, planes, and insulations in our buildings. Then, if you remember, plastics was mentioned already in the beginning of the discussion of circular economy as one of the 5 areas that need to be taken into account in order to achieve a success in circular economy. And probably you have also seen this drawing. This is one of the drawing of Ellen MacArthur document that was showing that we need to do something with the packaging, plastic packaging we currently use, because today it seems that only 50% of plastic packaging may be easily recycled. However, the remaining part, we may try to change the mode of use from single use to reuse, but 30% needs to be redesigned. And this is where the role of eco-design enters. Okay, sorry, we are here. Yes. Of course, we will not discuss that packaging is indispensable. Here, a small example, only 80 grams of plastic packaging. It's protecting 300 grams of steak. And if we compare the GHG, the greenhouse gases of both products, of the product itself, so the meat and the packaging, we see clearly the objective. If we can protect the product, the food, better, it's a very good advantage for the environment. Okay, so we confirm that plastics packaging reduces CO2 emissions. This is, okay, I would say, a numerical example. If we package food with plastic packaging, in average, it takes 70 grams per kilo. Sorry, it's expressed in emissions of CO2, so quite complex, but just showing that even adding a small amount of packaging, of course, which every product has its CO2 footprint, including plastic packaging. But in total, we have again a negative impact on the on the environment, because the amount of food which is protected and not wasted contributes very much to this positive result. Okay, everyone knows this. So we have positive side, but also we have negative sides. Some say it is a curse of plastics. The growing amount of litter. This is of course not a photo from Europe, but we know that some areas in the world do not know how to handle plastics. Maybe they know, but they don't have the necessary infrastructure. A great percentage of people living in the globe today do not have access even to the basic waste infrastructure. So for them, then disposing of waste is just throwing it away. And I will stay here for a moment. That's why many initiatives have been launched, including from the plastics industry. One of the most famous is the Alliance to End Plastic Waste, which puts real money. I think it's more than 1.5 billion US dollars just to invest in those regions, so Far East, where the problem of plastic littering is the biggest. Then coming to eco-design, well, I will not read or the definition, but just to mention that eco-design, it's trying to combine the classical design of products, if we limit to packaging, classical design of packaging with all environmental aspects of the packaging. And in looking in a wider scale, it's a part of design for sustainability. We say that eco-design must be done with a holistic approach, which means to take into account all the functions of a product, in this case, all the functions of packaging, plus environmental impact becomes one of the core requirements. So, for example, for a bottle, we add the requirements of protecting mechanically or chemically to optimize logistics, so easily packed in a bigger amount, to provide customer information. Very important one. That's why we have so colorful labels and full of information for the consumer. But if we look more into details, there are many parameters that have an impact, that might have an impact on the environment, that we should take, or we can take into account. I start with reusability, because reuse is really something that we should aim at. We should try to forget about single use wherever it's possible, and try to shift our mode of life, mode of living to reusability. Then we have use of secondary raw materials. Here we speak of using waste as raw materials, for example, recycling. Then we should see, of course, minimalization of materials, because that is the lower the income environment is. And we should think about recyclability. So possibly they can be recyclable, but in such a way that we reuse further materials. And we have a conflict of two values. One is environmental, like circularity of raw materials, but secondly, safety of consumer, safety of food. That's why this problem is complicated, and not every plastic waste, not every waste may become again a source for food contact materials. Of course, if we speak of the aspects of eco-design, it should be safe for use and probably use renewable raw materials and should not invite them we can have different strategies for designing. We can control use to buy only resource materials which are sustainable, and we could try design to reduce waste and increase recyclability. Here, an example of this one eco-design strategy concentrated on recycling. So design for recycling. And the objective number one here is to have recyclability as possible, and that's why we need to pass some basic requirements for the packaging. I mentioned some requirements because it's a very often used to pass the basic condition that should fulfill so that it is sustainable. And as you remember, this is one of the sustainability issues. And we stress here that every stakeholder should be active in here in that regulation, but very big of the customers. Speaking for the industry, we stress that the industry is very much fully regulation of plastic strategy, circular economy, and the industry works a lot on eco-design. I put here examples, big rocky projects that enable eco-design and is tailored solutions for individual polymers like polyolefins, or but also seeking sustainable solutions to recycling tier of the main groups. So general design rules for recycling on one page. So minimizing material quantity, and we should try to design the packaging of a monopolymer material. Why? Because the plastics, I did not mention it, but probably you know, plastics is not one material, it's several materials, which may be very different one from another in terms of chemical, physical properties. So for this reason, they should be, if possibly, separated before recycling, because each polymer may have a different recycling procedure and technology. That's why, if possible, we should use monopolymer material, but sometimes it is not possible, because if we want to have, for example, barrier materials, barrier properties, so to protect the food for a longer time against, for example, water or oxygen, there are special barrier plastic films added to packaging that prevent, for example, meat from spoiling during much longer time. And then the shape of the container should be constructed in such a way to enable full and easy emptying. We should avoid strong contrasting colors, because then after recycling, those colors mix, and in the end we may have only one color, nice gray or dark gray. And we should try to have all adhesives, for example, for the labels, that they should be easily removable. During the preparation for recycling, they should be separated, easily separated from the bottle. And finally, we should remember that in most cases in Europe, electronic detection of waste is used in waste separators units, and that's why we should enable those robots to discover the material the packaging is made of. So if we have a label that is covering the full bottle, the machine will not discover the real material of the bottle itself. That's why we say that probably we should forget about sleeves one day. Okay, and finally, two examples of eco-design. Reducing weight. Okay, you may be angry to see a single-use plastics, but of course, attempting to go towards reusable products, we think we will still have to do with single-use plastics, single-use products or packaging. So reducing the weight to 6 grams by a company. Another company has invented a barrier film, which is fully recyclable in normal polyethylene or propylene, polypropylene technologies that we use today. So we can say that if those technologies are introduced on a wide scale, we will not have a problem of recycling difficult materials like we have today, many polymer films. And finally, for the companies, why should they practice design for sustainability? Because they want. You see some arguments of responsibility of preserving the world for the children, long-term strategy, but they can also earn money on this. They can reduce their costs of material and reduce the energy consumption. They can improve their market position. They will sell their products in an easier way because they will be innovative and environmental friendly. And by avoiding pollutants, they reduce the risk of liability. And of course, we should not forget that there is legislation which is putting some standards, and there are customers who expect sustainable products. I think that's all. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. And yeah, thank you very much. So I think you have also get pretty bunch of questions. So if you can go now to the Q&A section, and also maybe Ania Szałkowska or some other chemists which are with us, they can also look at the many questions with their eyes, which are quite specific, and maybe you can also share your knowledge. And now we, as Sanne said, we should stop talking and go to the practice. And we want to show you like 3 great examples, 3 great solutions, which is already making place, are implemented. So first it will be Polish startup, Polish company, the Thirsty Pleasure, Cygnus Technologies. So Dr. Olga Czerwińska, please tell us a little bit about your technology and about your...
Hi everyone, can you hear me well? I hope so.
Yes, we can hear
you. Thank you for the invitation. As you mentioned, I'm representing Cygnus Group, part of which is Thirsty Pleasure. And today I'll tell you a few words about innovative circular solutions for the plastic industry. And I hope that I'll convince you that 3D printing can be the future of circular economy. But at first, let me share a screen with you. Share. Okay. So let's start with the basics. I have to say that the main strength of our company, the Cygnus Group, are the people, engineers, physicists, designer, and what we do on an everyday basis, we together implement 3D printing in companies, in institutions, and provide technological consulting, build machines, and work on our own and commercial R&D projects. It's a lot. Cygnus Group consists of 2 main entities, which are Cygnus New Technologies and Cygnus Biotechnologies. Thirsty Pleasure is part of Cygnus New Technologies. Cygnus New Technologies focuses on industrial applications of 3D printing, while Cygnus Biotechnology on 3D bioprinting and bio applications. Together, they respond to almost every market need concerning additive manufacturing and technological consulting. Involved in several R&D projects, not only for the external clients, but also in cooperation with scientific institutions, such as the project of bionic pancreas, of intelligent air ducts for for example, we have our own developing the technology 3D printing low temperature glass, or one concerns 3D printing in ceramics. the wide application of the 3D printing, I put some examples of our client on this slide. And you can see here large manufacturing companies such as Technicolor or Ramak or but also Polish print, which is a wide variety of our implementation. But it's not over. I must say that forecasts for the entire 3D printing market are very promising. It is assumed that the observed dynamic growth of the market will be maintained, and that its value in 7 years will reach over $55 billion. That's very promising. Okay, but how are we and the whole technology is connected with the concept of circular economy? I must say that there are 3 aspects. First, by the production process itself. Second, the material we use, and again by the purpose of our work and the implementations. 3D printing is a part of Industry 4.0, and what we do here, we create objects by consecutive layers of material in the 3D printer chamber, such as the one here in the picture. This technique allows us to produce models with very complex geometry, which is very often not available in any other production techniques, such as this flower-shaped lamp here, and which is very, very important in the context of circular economy. We can actually match the material to specific and to the number of items we want to produce in our series. What's more, I think it's one of the few manufacturing techniques the production of one piece remains profitable. Okay, in our work, as I mentioned, we mainly rely on the materials that are biodegradable. The prominent example would be the PLA, so polylactic acid. It's a biodegradable bioplastic produced, for example, from corn or cassava. And in our work, we use pure PLA or its mixtures with, for example, wood or some other substances. Sometimes organic, sometimes not. Of course, life's not perfect. But what we are working also right now is our own composter dedicated to which is so we observe that there is a lack of such solutions on the market, and the PLA waste is a problem. So by our composter, we would like to close the cycle of our products in a proper way. As I mentioned, also implementations of 3D printing are also agree with the principles of circular economy. We can, for example, decrease significantly the material waste or increase the productivity. Here we have the example of our project for footwear, for some company from the footwear industry, where the results were amazing. On the other side, we can improve the supply chain for big production companies such as Technicolor, Johnson Electric, ABB. These are some examples of our case studies. But recently, in the face of COVID epidemic, thanks to 3D printing, we could respond almost instantly to the exceptional needs of the market and the healthcare. What we did, what we have been doing, because we are still producing them. We produce face shields dedicated for medical staff. They are exceptional because of their design, which is better to use on the everyday basis. And what's more, we also produced laboratory stands dedicated for coronavirus tests, which raises substantially the scope for testing for one of Polish companies, Warsaw Genomics.
Olga, I'm sorry, I think you have 2 minutes because we are losing time. Okay?
Don't worry, I'm so this new technology some time ago introduced its own brand, Foreca and Thirsty Pleasure, which was mentioned by Agnieszka. Their aim is to replace the usual disposable utilities, such as plastic straws, with biodegradable ones. The key examples are 3D printed straws, pens, or some glass adapters that can be tailor-made for the specific customer and the specific interior. So I want to thank you very much for your attention. I hope that I made you interested in the topic of 3D printing. And if you have any questions or comments, I would be more than happy to discuss them with you, either in the section here in our call, or maybe via email. Here you can see my email address, so contact me. And if you're interested in getting to know more about 3D printing and its capabilities, please visit our website. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So now we're going to the Dutch examples. So first will be the Great Bubble Barrier and Philip Ehrhorn from the Great Bubble Barrier. So floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. See if I have my screen shared. I think that should be all sorted right now. Yeah, thank you very much for the invitation. For everyone watching, at the end of the presentation, you might need your smartphone. So if you don't have it ready yet, go and fetch it. My name is Philip Ehrhorn. I'm one of the co-founders and CTO of the Great Bubble Barrier, and I will walk you through what we do with our air bubbles. So the current problem, I think that I hope everyone is by now aware of, is that each year we have around 8 billion kilograms of plastics that end up in our oceans. And we see that it has entered our entire food chain. We know that it not only can be danger by the plastic themselves, but also the toxins that attach to these particles, something that Hubert mentioned in the first presentation, so-called persistent organic pollutants that can concentrate on the surface of plastic particles, and especially the smaller ones, when they're ingested by life forms, these toxins can go over into the tissue and can cause irritations. And then a new thing we have learned relatively recently that we have not fully, we don't understand fully yet, and also the possible impact is that degrading plastics also release greenhouse gases. So when you look at the main source of plastic pollution in our oceans, it's broadly assumed that around 2/3 of that enter the ocean through land-based sources, and that mainly from rivers. So the question is, if you do have to stop it, if it's already in the environment, you do have to stop it, shouldn't you be doing it in the rivers before it enters our oceans? So this is why we have invented the bubble barrier. And what it is, it's basically a perforated tube that we place on the bottom of a river or canal. Then we pump air through it, and the rising air bubbles create an upwards current. And together with the natural flow of the river, the plastic is then guided to the side and into our catchment system, where we can retain it and remove it from the water. So why the bubble barrier? There's a couple of key benefits that makes it unique. And the first thing is, it's basically not a physical barrier. While it is a barrier for plastics, it's not a barrier for ships or for fish. You'll hear also later from Mario's, I think most of his employees are constantly driving over and through the bubble barrier in Amsterdam. And the other aspect is that it's the only solution currently that has a full effect on the whole width and depth of a river. So in one of our first open water pilots in the Dutch river IJssel, it's one of the biggest rivers in the Netherlands, we were able to show that we could catch 86% of our test material and that it was continuously collecting material around 1 millimeter to 1 meter. Of course, we can't catch everything. The main limiting factor is also the weight. So the bigger the plastic items get, we don't know yet to what level we can stop it. We see that in Amsterdam we're catching Christmas trees, so that's still possible. But I'm not fully sure if we would be able to catch a Dixie toilet, which is a site that can definitely happen in Amsterdam. We are also investigating if we have an impact on smaller plastic particles, especially the non-visible microplastics that are often found in higher concentrations after wastewater treatment plants. There's a project we have executed this year, and we expect the first results by the end of this year. Now I have a few visuals for you, and I hope that's gonna work out. From our bubble barrier in Amsterdam that was launched last year, November. Yes, so this is the bubble barrier Amsterdam. As I said, launched last year in November. We realized this bubble barrier together with the City of Amsterdam and the Water Authority, Waternet. This bubble barrier is going to be in the water for at least 3 years. And one of its goals is also to have a look at how much of the plastic from the city is also still leaving towards the North Sea. That's the aim of the city. They want to prevent that any of the plastic from the city is going towards the ocean. And that is very much in line with what we want to do with the bubble barrier. We don't see the bubble barrier as the solution now to our problem. It's one step in an integrated approach how we can tackle this problem. The bubble barrier is able to intercept the plastic. We can use that data to monitor and for the first time even see what we have in our waters. We can use that again to give support to new measures and policy further upstream. So it can work on the fact that we don't even want to have plastic in the water in the first place. We also make visual what is even in the water, something that also Plastic Whale is actively working on to raise awareness, to make people understand what's happening. So in that way, we see the bubble barrier as an integrative approach. And then also in the other direction with recycling, we can have a look at what of these plastic materials that we cover from the environment have still a value in a circular economy, and what would we have to do that we can achieve that. So for us at the Great Bubble Barrier, we have been concentrating on the Netherlands last year. This year we're focusing on Europe, and we're having our eye on Asia for 2022. The reason why Europe for us is also very important is because Europe is a place where we have already the very advanced waste infrastructure, where we have all these great technologies that we have already heard, but yet still we are not able to prevent that plastic ends up in the waters. So we should really have a look at where we have the ideal surrounding circumstances that this has to be optimized. You know, that's a scenario where we shouldn't have any waste entering our oceans anymore. And when we go to Asia, we're going to be faced with other challenges as well. And same as Kazimierz has mentioned, that a lot of these regions, they don't have access to a normal waste management. So that's the first step we should have a look at, right? If we come and place a bubble barrier, we don't want to replace the existing or like non-existing waste infrastructure and promote people, you know, throwing the plastic in the river, because in the end it's going to be collected by the bubble barrier. So for Asia, of course, it's going to be a new challenge, and we want to do this together with partners, also from the industry, to see that we can comprehensively go also into that market and approach the problem over there. So again, how can you help? It's basically two things: policy. We don't have policy at the moment really on plastic in water. No one is obligated to do anything in a lot of cases once the plastic is in the water, and that's something that really has to change. And of course, action, something we can all do right away. And today is to work with your local businesses, get your mayor, get your local politicians on board, contact them to say, this is something that we want. We want to have a bubble barrier to stop plastic leaving our cities towards the oceans. That was already it, basically. Thank you very much. And now it's the point where you could use your phone if you want. We have a QR code here where you can, when you use your camera on your phone, you can scan the one-pager and download it. And on the right, it's a QR code that will take you to a 360 image on Google Street View of the bubble barrier in Amsterdam. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Philip. And it's great what I heard here. So I keep my fingers crossed that you can scale it up. And now, Marius Smith from Plastic Waste, Whale. And actually, I had opportunity to see the furniture which was made out of plastic from Amsterdam canals. So Marius, please, floor is yours. Show us your experience and your solutions.
Well, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me. Let me see if I can share my screen. There it is. I already heard somebody say this thing, we need to stop talking, start doing. That's actually our motto: stop talking, let's start doing. And my presentation is very much about the shared responsibility that consumers, companies, and governments have in solving this worldwide problem. And Plastic Whale is my company. It's a social enterprise. We are not dependent upon subsidies or anything like that. We have to make our own money. So we're actually a company, and a fast-growing company, because we saw the need for people to actually start doing, and companies to start doing. So for me, it started whilst I was traveling the world for a year together with my girlfriend at the time. And I'd never heard of a problem called plastic soup, but whilst I was traveling, I saw it with my own eyes, and I decided that I wanted to do something about it. And when I came back home in Amsterdam, I saw that it isn't necessarily a faraway problem, which is very often portrayed as a problem of the Southeast Asia or Africa. Obviously, the problem is huge over there, but also in Europe, and even in my own beautiful backyard, the canals of Amsterdam, plastic waste is a problem. So I wanted to find a way to start something, start a movement to involve as many people as possible to tackle this problem, but starting from my own backyard, the canals of Amsterdam. But there was a slight problem that I didn't know where to start and how to start, because I was just by myself. So I looked around for inspiration, And well, one person particularly inspired me. That was this man, John F. Kennedy, with his speech of 1961, during which he said that he wanted to land a man on the moon before the end of the decade, which at the time was clearly impossible, but it was relevant because of the race against the Russians. It was time bound. There was a lot of time pressure on it, but mostly it was a very clear vision of a man standing on the moon that excited people. So that created a movement of people who wanted to make the impossible possible. And that really appealed to me, because you can look at a problem or you could look at solutions and you could look at challenges. And well, I like creation and innovation, and I believe that people are inspired by creation and innovation, and they want to be part of something of a positive movement, so to speak. And because of social media, I thought nowadays you don't have to be called Kennedy anymore to create a movement, but you have to create your own man on the moon. So that's what I did 9 years ago. I published my Man on the Moon, which sounded like, I want to build a boat made from plastic waste, yet I've never driven a boat, let alone built one. I knew nothing of boats, nothing of plastics. I had no network in sustainability or whatsoever. I had no plan except for this strategy to create this Man on the Moon, from which a movement forward would need to evolve. And it was based upon the belief that there are millions and millions of people like me around the world who are frustrated with all the bad news and want to be part of the good news. And they're civilians, they're companies and government institutions, and they all share the same frustration, because every single day we see bad news on television, on the radio, on social media. And well, I'm fed up with it and I want to be part of the good news. So, and I believe that there's so many people like me who want to be part of the good news as well. So I thought, if I start this movement, well, hopefully, if I launch this Man on the Moon, this challenge, hopefully this movement of people who wanted to make the impossible possible would evolve. And that's exactly what happened, because as soon as I published my Man on the Moon via social media, my network exploded, and I talked to all sorts of people who wanted to help me, and they're all professionals in their own field, experts in their own fields. So this movement, this network was growing. And after a while, I was talking to so many people that I thought, well, I wanted to actually start doing. We are on the canals of Amsterdam, so why don't we arrange some boats, some friends, some fishing nets, and we go plastic fishing to actually start doing something. And we call it old-fashioned Amsterdam plastic fishing. And a friend of mine created this poster. And we published this poster and just invited anybody to join. And we thought if 50 people turn up on 10 boats, we'll be all right. But for the first event, 450 people turned up on 30 boats. And the next event, next year, 1,200 people on 72 boats. Because it turned out that people just love plastic on the canals of Amsterdam. And there were civilians, there were companies, government institutions coming together to actually start doing something and cleaning the canals from plastics. So this actually evolved into a business, because Starbucks Coffee contacted me first saying, well, we want to do the same thing with you, but with our company. And well, then more companies followed, and we've been plastic fishing with more than 500 companies so far. In 2019, we went plastic fishing with about 17,000 people alone. In Amsterdam, but also in Rotterdam. We went to Hamburg, to London, to Frankfurt. So we're expanding our range as well. But all of the time, we have so many enthusiastic people who join because they actually want to do something. The thing that we do with the plastics is that we separate the bottles from all the different kinds of plastics that we take out from the canals, because we had learned that we could use the PET bottles as raw material for foam plates, for instance, or to produce felt. So we wanted to, well, my challenge was to build a boat from plastic waste. Well, after 3 years, we built the first boat. And afterwards, we also started producing furniture, and I'll come back to that in a second. But the way we actually make the boats is that we turn the PET bottles into foam plates, and the foam plates are the core of our boats. And well, 6 years ago, I had the first boat, and now we have a fleet of 11 boats in Amsterdam and 2 boats in Rotterdam. And they're all sponsored by companies who we call our partners, because together with those partners, we want to involve as many people as possible. And through those partners, we can reach millions of people because their consumers and their suppliers, etc., are involved as well. Like I said, we also produce office furniture. We started producing office furniture just 2 years ago, and it's very high-end office furniture because we wanted to enter the boardrooms, because the big decisions are made in the boardrooms. So, well, 18 organizations have actually adopted our products so far. So we've made a table, we've developed a table, we've developed a chair together with a partner called VEPA. They're producing in Holland. But we also produce lamps and acoustic panels. And this year, we're going to introduce 5 new products, which are more suitable for the mass market, because they're stackable chairs, for instance, a lounge chair and things like that. So we're going to introduce that in September and October. But because of this, more and more companies are approaching us to work together with us to actually produce products made from Amsterdam Canal plastic, or maybe Indonesian beach plastic or African beach plastic. So we also started a feasibility study in Ghana this year, and it seems like we're going to the next phase with it to actually start our business in Ghana as well. But later this year, we're also going to introduce a consumer product together with a European market leader. So that's developing really fast. We're reaching a lot of people through this, and the lady on the right side is the State Secretary of the Ministry of Infrastructure, and she was actually the first one to order one of our tables, and it's actually the meeting room table of the State Secretary and the Minister. So the fact is, what we try to achieve is that we want to inspire others to take positive action as well, by saying that we don't believe in impossible. You know, I started Plastic Whale just 9 years ago without any means, but just with one challenge, and with the vulnerability of saying that a lot of things I can't do and I just need help from people. And if you ask for help, people will help you. And in the end, we've achieved so much more than we'd ever imagined. And that's what we want to tell our target groups, and they're mostly companies, that there's so much to be gained by doing good. And there's also a big adventure in doing good. And in the end, you know, it's not just financial gain, but it's very often also a gain of pride of your own employees being part of something very inspiring and positive. So that's how I want to conclude my talk, by stop talking, and I want to invite everybody just to start doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the perfect, I think, call to action at the end of our webinar. So I think I would like to thank you very much, all our dear panelists that want to spend with us these 2 hours, and also the audience, which actively also taking part in the webinar, you know, asking questions and commenting all presentation. We for sure will share with you our report, which is in English and in Polish, and the presentation which we could be shared, we also share with you. We ask our panelists which one we can be sent to the audience. So once again, thank you very much, and I hope you meet you soon for the next occasion when we can discuss further the plastic issue. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.